coming in at number 81, we have free agent defensive end / outside linebacker Jadeveon Clowney. And, this one's really interesting to me in particular because I feel like the consensus right now is that Clowney's coming off of a down year where he only had 3 sacks, and as a result, he doesn't deserve to be anywhere near a list of the top 100 best players in the NFL, right? Well, to me, that couldn't be more wrong, and essentially all you're doing by saying that is exposing yourself for being somebody who only watches the box score and the stat sheet opposed to actually watching the games. Because if you put on a Seahawks game or some Clowney film or just even dug a little bit deeper into some more advanced stats, I think you would pretty easily realize that Jadeveon is actually one of the most impactful and disruptive players at his position in the entire league without a question. And kind of for a point of comparison, I pulled his quarterback hurries in relation to guys that I've had on the list previously in Brandon Graham and Everson Griffin, right? Well, Clowney last year, he played 13 games, just played over 600 snaps. Well, in those snaps, he had 41 total quarterback hurries, and that's kind of crazy when you consider he only had 3 sacks, right? Well, Everson Griffin, who played all 16 games, had 9 sacks on his own. He only had 40 hurries despite playing 248 more snaps. And Brandon Graham's the same way. He only had 37 hurries. So what exactly are we talking about here? Why are we penalizing Jadeveon just because he's not able to bring a guy down, even though he's getting to the quarterback at a faster rate? And kind of speaking of rate, NFL Next Gen Stats, they track your pass rush win rate, which is how often on your pass rushing snaps are you beating your blocker. Well, Jadeveon, even though he's supposedly not a good pass rusher, he only has 3 sacks, whatever, he was actually 7th in the league in pass rush win rate at 24% of all of his reps he was winning. And that's higher than Nick Bosa, Zadarius Smith, Frank Clark, Yannick Ngakoue, and just a bunch of other guys at that DN / outside linebacker position that you would say should be higher on the list. So what exactly are we talking about here? Are we just going to look at tackles and sacks and let that determine somebody's spot? Or are we actually going to look at impact? And in my case, I'm actually trying to look at impact, and that's why Clowney's number 81. And in terms of what is the driving force behind all that impact and disruption that Clowney brings, I find myself hard-pressed to think it's anything other than his freakish athleticism. Everybody talks about trying to find the next twitchy pass rusher or twitchy edge defender, and Clowney, he's twitchy to the 10th power. He's twitchy to the highest of levels, and you see that week in and week out, no matter what team he's playing for, whether it's the Texans, the Seahawks, or whoever he ends up signing with this offseason. And here's a perfect example of that. This time you're going to have a run going the other direction where all the offensive linemen are blocking down, and they're going to try and bring Austin Hooper from the other side of the formation to kind of kick out Clowney and potentially allow this play to bang back in if there is a cutback necessary, right? Well, what does Clowney do off the snap? He shows just that great explosiveness and gets upfield immediately. And once he realizes that this is a handoff, this isn't a play action, he puts that foot in the ground, turns his hips, and goes, right? And what kind of happens next? Well, Austin Hooper is completely whiffs, and Jadeveon brings down Devonta for a huge loss. And if I had to guess what happens, because I don't know why Hooper whiffs so badly. I mean, it looks like they're on a perfect collision course for each other. But if I had to guess, Hooper's probably ran this play hundreds of times, and it's probably very rare that somebody is going to meet you all the way over, at that hash mark. Whereas a lot of times it's probably, the contact is probably coming over here more 3 yards outside of that. And if I had to guess, just looking at Hooper's kind of helmet, I don't even know if he has eyes on Clowney at this point. I think that he just completely missed him because Clowney is so fast. And here's another play where you just see the initial burst, but this time it's not only in his first step and going upfield, it's in his hands and in his upper body as well, as he hits a really nice swim move to get over and evade Rashad Hill's block here, number 69 for the Vikings. Just look at how, obviously we're at the goal line, so Hill's going to fire out low and kind of with his head down, which when you're off balance, Clowney's going to beat you. And I can tell you that oftentimes as an offensive lineman, as the field kind of starts to shorten and you can see the end zone, a lot of times that technique is going to go out the window, and you're going to do stuff like this as Hill does, where you're just trying to fire out low and kind of just push him a little bit to where you give Madison enough room to get over the top potentially, right? Well, Clowney, he knows that. He knows that a lot of linemen are just firing right out of their stance, and as a result, he's going to react to that after he sees it happen and just hit a beautiful swim move, go right over the top of Hill, have him eating the turf, and then he's able to, again, turn his hips, go down the line of scrimmage, and make a great tackle on Madison to prevent 6 points by Minnesota. And here's another great example where, this time it's Clowney going up against Ronnie Stanley, who is, in many's eyes, one of the top 3 to 5 left tackles in the entire NFL. And look at how silly Clowney's able to make him look on this initial move, where he just goes right over the top, swipes Stanley's hands away, and is able to, again, explode down the line of scrimmage and make a great tackle in space for a loss on the other side of the formation. It's just so impressive because you rarely see defensive ends, going all the way across the play, spanning, sometimes 10, 15 yards to bring a guy down behind the line of scrimmage still. But that's the kind of explosiveness that Jadeveon Clowney offers. Clowney also does a really great job of using his length to attack opposing offensive linemen, and that's exactly what you're going to see him do here on a bull rush attempt against promising 49ers young right tackle Mike McGlinchey, in which he essentially just shoots those hands, gets them in McGlinchey's chest, and is able to drive him right into Jimmy G's lap, right? And that's what you're going to see as, look at how off the snap, obviously Clowney's going to do a couple head fakes, nothing too crazy, but once he commits to this bull rush, look at how he's able to utilize those long arms and get them right inside McGlinchey's chest. What I always say is, typically the guy who gets their hands inside their opponent and controls the chest, they're going to control the rep and ultimately usually win the rep, right? Well, in this case, both guys kind of know that, and as you can see, look at what McGlinchey tries to do. He takes both hands off to try and reinsert them up and under and, get in Clowney's chest. But again, Clowney's arms are already extended. You're not going to be able to do anything with him at that point, and as a result, he kind of just rides him into the quarterback as, look at him just start to bench press McGlinchey off of him and, almost fold him like a lawn chair there just before he luckily, I guess, stumbles backwards and Clowney's able to make the play on Jimmy G. Not every pass rush win for Clowney is going to take as long as that last one did, though, because, even though McGlinchey had his hands in the air at one point, it did still seem to take a little bit for Clowney to engage in that bull rush and get the sack, right? Well, some of them are going to be immediate, and they're often the result of just his short area quickness. And that's what we're going to see here where he's going up against Jamon Brown, number 68 of the Falcons. And watch how he, initially has a head fake, but then more importantly, he takes his entire body from this B gap where he's lined up as a 3-tech across Jamon's face, and then once Jamon kind of starts to power step down and, take away that inside, how Clowney just counters back to the outside, beats Jamon to the spot, and is able to almost get a sack on Matt Schaub. It's just incredibly impressive, and, it's plays like these where, again, this does not show up in the stat sheet. Nowhere does quarterback pressure show up on your ESPN box score or your fantasy team. You're only looking at sacks and tackles, but, Clowney on this play was the most important and most disruptive man on the field. And, it's kind of ignorant to me to not act like plays like this are happening on a consistent basis. And Clowney doesn't even have to win with just his physical tools. He can also win with his technique as well. And that's what we're going to see here with just some great hand usage against Jason Peters. And, just watch how, even though this is a run play, not a pass play, the move would work if it was either. It's just a beautiful swim move by Clowney going up against Peters, where look at how he sets Peters up on the outside again. You can see that with that right jab step, forces Peters to take that last kick slide out, and then just give him a sliver of space between him and the left guard in that B gap. Clowney takes that, swims over the top of him, and is able to collapse down on Bart Scott to make a play. It's just scary when you have somebody who's combining not only that freakish athleticism, but with some really solid technique as well, and that's what results in plays like this. And I called this next one lateral mobility, but it's really just the last two slides combined. You're going to see the short area quickness, and you're also going to see the hand usage kind of supplement that and help him make the play. So watch him here as off the snap, he's going to take a step with that right foot forward. Let me see if I can get a quick pause. He takes a step with that right foot forward, but then look at how easily it is for him to just bounce off that foot, come back left, move all the way from the B gap to the C gap just with one simple step, and at the same time bring those hands and clear him with another swim move as he gets his way into the backfield and brings down the Buccaneers running back for a huge loss. It just plays like these where, again, it's very scary because he's starting to put everything together, and as an offensive lineman, it's very tough to deal with that on a play-to-play basis. And in terms of motor, this is one area where I think Clowney's improved quite a bit since he came out of college, because back at South Carolina, especially that last season, his junior year, once everybody kind of knew he was going to be the number one overall pick, it seemed like he was just taking a lot of plays off. And while he certainly will take a play every now and then for the Seahawks or the Texans, what you often see now more than ever is is you see him just display a great motor and really a relentless pursuit of the ball carrier, or in this case, the quarterback. So watch how off the snap, you see the first step, you're going to see the short area quickness. Is look at how he's, even though he's bringing this right foot towards the outside, look at how he's going to push off that and explode inside, and then from there he's going to utilize that swipe move, get the right tackle's hands off of him, and then, okay, here comes Devonta Freeman. This is kind of like that Todd Gurley example we saw earlier, but this time Freeman steps up, does a nice job pushing him off center, right? Well, Clowney doesn't give up, though. He keeps fighting, and even though the right tackle gets back in on it, he's going to go essentially through Freeman into Schaub, force the fumble, and end the game for the Seahawks. Just great plays like these that Clowney's making now on a more consistent basis than he ever has. Don't think for a second, though, that just because Clowney is a really good pass rusher, that he's also not a really good run defender, because honestly, he might be even better against the run than he is against the pass, and that's saying something. But a large part of that is due to his physicality. And, just look at him here as he takes on a block by this pulling San Francisco 49ers right guard. And, a lot of guys, when, Staley blocks down, the tight end blocks out, a lot of guys, it takes them a second to process what exactly is going on. Okay, where am I going to be blocked from? Because obviously you do know that, most likely someone is going to pull and try and block you. But with Clowney, look at how he just reacts. Like, it's not even like he's reading and reacting. He's just straight reacting. Look at how he's squeezing this play so quickly. And he's even just jumping and leaping into the backfield, right? And while most guys, as I said, they're going to be like the nail opposed to the hammer on contact, Jadeveon, he wants to go hammer on hammer. He wants to meet that polar equidistant to each other and just wreak havoc in the backfield. That's what he's going to do as he utilizes what's called a wrong arm and kind of turns his body and brings that outside arm up and through this right guard. And look at how that just absolutely constricts any semblance of a hole, because in all honesty, if Jadeveon did just get washed out on this play, the 49ers are in a great spot, and this run is probably a touchdown, because you're going to see great front side drive fits and then some really solid backside reach fits develop, and essentially that entire front seven part like the Red Sea with their fullback coming through and getting a really nice block on the safety. Just look at this. Like, if Jadeveon's not here constricting that hole, this play is a whole touchdown. I'm not exaggerating, because again, everybody is walled off or being reached on the backside, and you even have fullbacks going and blocking safeties 10 yards downfield. The only reason this play doesn't work is because of Jadeveon's physicality on contact to meet that pulling guard in the backfield, and ultimately not only just constrict the hole, but even just push the lineman into the ball carrier and bring him down on your own. It's just plays like these that are they're next level plays that you rarely see from anybody in the league, let alone the top tier edge defenders. And here's a play that I called setting the edge, even though, technically he does not allow anything to get outside of him. Don't get it twisted. It's more importantly him just capitalizing on a miscommunication by the Packers tight end and right tackle Jared Veldheer. Obviously, shout out to Jared, Hillsdale College alumni, but I'm running the same plays now that he ran 10 years ago, and I can confirm that nobody ever taught him to leave one of the league's most dynamic players on the edge completely unblocked. And obviously, I'm saying that kind of tongue-in-cheek because it is just a miscommunication. These happen from time to time. It's pretty clear that Veldheer thought that the tight end was blocking down and he was pulling, whereas the tight end must have thought that Veldheer was going to reach Clowney and he was just going to go up to the second level. But either way, I can't fault Clowney for their miscommunication. And all I can do is really praise him for being able to react so quickly and make a huge play on Aaron Jones in the backfield for a loss. And with almost every defensive lineman, you're going to hear me talk about their ability to stack and shed, because it's one of the most important things that you can do when defending the run. So what's going to happen here, just like on that play against Mike McGlinchey earlier, you're going to have Villanueva just give up his chest off the snap to Clowney. And what's Clowney going to do? He's going to take those long 34.5-inch arms and just jam them right into his chest plate and kind of shock the blocker, send him back, redefine the line of scrimmage. Now this time about 1.5 yards in the backfield as he's benching Villanueva off him. And then what's he going to do? He's going to use his head, peek in the backfield, try and find the ball carrier, and once he locates him, shed and bring him down for the tackle. It's plays like these that make Clowney so special because he's doing this on a consistent basis. He has been doing it on a consistent basis for the Seahawks and the Texans, and I can guarantee you that whoever signs him in 2020 and going forward, they're going to get this on a consistent basis as well. And the shed part of that stack and shed process is super integral, so I want to give it another slide of its own, because that's exactly what you're going to see here, where Clowney's lined up against Bobby Hart in that C gap. But watch how he's going to start putting everything together. You're going to see the explosive first step upfield. Then you're going to see him kind of react to Bobby Hart's block and decide to take it inside with that lateral mobility and short area quickness to cross Hart's face, and then use his hands to get him off, get Hart off of him, and then ultimately explode into the backfield and find Joe Mixon for a loss. It's just so impressive how even on these plays where the tackles do get a pretty decent chunk of him, or they should at least, because he's going right across their face, Clowney's able to just shed those blocks entirely and make these great splash plays for a huge loss. And, continue with that process. You got the stack, you got the shed, and now we're going to talk about the finish. So what are you going to have here? Just Clowney laying an absolute bomb of a hit on my man Dalvin Cook. I feel bad for this man here because, look at what Clowney is not only able to do to Irv Smith off the block, but more importantly, what he's able to do against Dalvin Cook. I don't know if you've ever thrown like one of those 50-cent bouncy rubber balls against a brick wall and just watch it fly. Well, that's exactly what happens there as Clowney lowers his shoulder, brings the boom, converts that initial speed into some power, all right, and sends Dalvin Cook packing. And, it's just plays like these where I said Jadeveon's kind of prototypical splash plays. Well, that's a perfect example of it. And, it's almost reminiscent of that South Carolina play that really bust him on the scene, in 2013 now. And, I love this last play because Clowney somehow takes almost everything we've talked about against the pass and the run and mashes it all together. So even though the result isn't that great, it's just the QB hurry, I love the process because it really allows us to recap everything we've talked about to this point, right? So what we're going to have is Clowney lined up outside of Mike McGlinchey. Right now, he is the last man on the line of scrimmage. He has to set that edge and defend that edge, not let anything outside of him. So what happens, though, I should say, you have Kyle Juszczyk motioning down to just outside of Clowney, right? So now KJ Wright shifts down. Clowney's responsibilities now are the same as any one-gap defender in this defense. His responsibility is that C gap. So as we saw multiple times earlier, what is he going to do when he reads run and is a gap defender? He's going to, first on that explosive first step, try and shoot those long arms in there so he can stack and shed and control his offensive blocker, right? So that's exactly what he does. He gets right in the chest of Juszczyk, and, just out of the corner of his eye, though, he sees that this play is actually not a run play. It's a play-action play. He can tell that ball is not getting handed off. So what does he do? He sheds from that block by Juszczyk, and, unsurprisingly, we talked about the physicality. He's going to motor through Garrett Selleck on this block here. He utilizes kind of a club rip combo, or, you can almost say he swipes away the hands a little bit, but just look at how he clears Selleck, and, once he clears the hips, he's gonna be held back. He's going to be held back really badly by Selleck. I don't know how this doesn't draw a flag, but he doesn't quit. He doesn't give up. You see the motor as he continues in his pursuit of Jimmy G and ultimately force a pretty bad throw. And, even though, as I said, that wasn't the most exciting play, it was still a great play that depicts a lot of what makes Clowney so special and ultimately why he is the disruptive force that he is, that lands himself at number 81 on my mic'd up top 100. And as always, if you did make it this far in the video and enjoyed it, make sure you leave a like. Make sure you leave a comment down below. Tell me not only what you thought of the video. Obviously, I'd love to hear your feedback. And, did you think I overrated or underrated Clowney? But more importantly, tell me, how would you feel if your favorite team signed Clowney to maybe a $17.5 million deal? Would you be happy because of all the disruption and impact that he offers? Or would you be upset because of the lack of sack and tackle production that he might have on a year-to-year basis? It's a really interesting discussion to be had, and I'm sure we're going to have more videos about Clowney as he eventually is signed. But with that being said, you won't find those videos unless you are subscribed to the channel. And if you did enjoy this video, we're going to have 80 more like it in the same vein. So make sure you do subscribe, get these videos in your sub box. I hope you guys are enjoying them because I most definitely am. But with that being said, that's all I got for you guys today. I'm mic'd up. Now I'm mic'ing out. Peace, guys.